Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second meeting of the quarter. We're going to be going over global rigs versus local rigs. But Roman, if you'd like to take it away.
I can see it now. Yeah, okay, cool. Global rigs. It's the parent rig. It's the rig drives that, or it's the rig that drives all the other rigs in your scene to move. It's your biped setup, for example, which has face controllers and that move a separate set of face setup. Typically, it will contain your broadest skin weights for the major volumes of the body. And some of the common uses of a global rig are where the global scaling occurs, where you can scale the entirety of the rig. The global rig accesses the functions of the local rigs.
Dara, if you'd like to go ahead from here.
Absolutely. So as Roman was saying, your global rig is going to be your main rig. And then so you have local rigs, and they are like isolated, localized rigs, and you typically connect them to the global rig through like a blend shape normally. But so like any controls that you would use on the global rig would control these local rigs, which in turn deforms the global rig. So essentially, you would like connect your controllers of your global rig to the local rigs, and then those would control that, which feeds into the global rig. And using local rigs kind of lets you layer additional setups into your rig without messing with like a complicated hierarchy, which I think is super neat, very cool. And you can use multiple local rigs on top of one another if you need to. So it depends on your workflow. Like using them for facial rigs, you can do like multiple local rigs. If you need to like separate like the eyebrows or separate the lips onto like different rigs, and then you kind of just feed it into one place. And then with local rigs, they're typically hidden in the final rig. So you don't delete these targets because local rigs are used for like live real-time deformations that you get on the global rig. And deformations are also easier to manage because you can group them into chunks to skin weight. So like you wouldn't have to skin weight on like the whole like the main rig. You can just like if you're only doing like eyebrows on like a separate rig, you can just isolate it to just the eyebrows, or like the lips on another. So you can just like separate them into chunks, and all of these deformations will just feed into one place. So common uses, you see them most in facial rigs. So you would end up using like multiple blend shapes to feed into a main target that feeds as a blend shape onto like the global rig. That's like one common approach. And you can do this if you run into switching of geometry references. And adding additional setups to your rigs can get funky with the hierarchy and global scale and skinning, so you can just avoid all of that hassle by making a local rig on the side and connecting it to the global rig. So that's really cool. And then it's also another way to apply ribbon setups into a global rig without dealing with all the messy issues that I was talking about.
And as to how to connect a local to a global rig, let's say you just basically set up all your joints, your skin weighting's done, and you have your controllers created. Typically, you'll want to use a blend shape to connect your geometry of the local setup to the global. So yeah, just basically, like Dara mentioned, you'll want to. I would recommend creating like a basic target shape. So like if it's the head, if you want to make a face rig for your head, you'll duplicate the head once and call that like your target, and then you'll duplicate that head again to start making a rig for it. And you'll have each of your setups target into that one head, so you don't have to go about reattaching all of these different blend shapes if the head model gets a little funky one day and you need to redo all the blend shapes. So you'll then directly connect your controllers to your joints. So instead of applying a constraint, you'll just use the connection editor or a script or the node editor and connect the translate scale and rotation to the joints, and it allows the joints of the local rig to only move when the controllers are being moved. So if the head moves, they won't cause the joints to follow where the controllers are now being parented and getting movements inherited into them. It'll just move when you actually put transformation data into those controls. Yeah, you should. So yeah, you'll then connect the attributes of the local rig to the ones of the global rig directly, essentially. So like the global rig controls would essentially just be your NURBS curves, and the local rig would be your joints. But if you could also just put you can also do that with NURBS curves. Next, when to kind of make the distinction of going from local to global, or global to local. A distinction right off the bat is that if it is unusable in the global rig, you'll want to make a local rig for it, like a ribbon setup. Because if you want to globally scale it, you're gonna be very hard pressed to figure out a way to scale a ribbon rig natively without attaching it via a blend shape. Another distinction is through how you want the mesh to deform. Keeping various sections of the rig broken down into smaller components to organize it is a great idea. So you'll want to break them up into more specific deformations into a local rig. So in a face rig, your global setup could probably just have a head joint, but your local rig will have the chin, jaw, nose, mouth, and cheek controls. And then a further local rig would have more minor controls for that area. Like you'll have a ribbon set up on the lips to be able to control minor parts of the lips, eyebrows, the cheeks, the nasolabial stuff, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's kind of just about once you get to a certain point, you'll want to just kind of start breaking it down into smaller chunks so that you can distribute the weights without having to worry about interfering with other joints in a way. But with that said, would y'all like a demonstration on like kind of what to kind of show what we mean a bit better?
Sure.
Alrighty. I'm gonna stop streaming and then open up Maya then. One of these days, they're gonna make Maya being able to open like way fast. It's gonna be like the Pokemon games where the saving became like instantaneous. It'll be great.
Gen
Loading
4
fast.
saving.
Faster.
Whenever you try to open it, he says, Maya's just giving you a chance to stop and think and just
To
realize
run.
what a great
To
artist
run.
you are, you know?
Please load faster and add more features.
Maya is trying. Would you like to save? Yes, Maya is trying to save a lot of data. Please do not turn off the power. But can y'all see this well enough?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
No lag.
Dope. We're just gonna. So I'm just gonna use a sphere for this demonstration really quick. But let's say if we just made a bit of a quick rig for this sphere, and we just make a bunch of joints. And with that, we'll just skin all of these joints to the sphere. Is there a bind skin? Actually, is there a bind skin button in here? I've actually never looked. Okay, I guess I can't see them. Wait, there it is. So yeah, this is the bind skin button. There we go. Yeah, so we've got everything skinned very crappily to the sphere right here, and so this would essentially be like our global rig. Everything that we need to basically do basic deformations on this sphere is here and stuff, and now and so yeah, we can basically start animating it. If this was like a biped, this would be like the foot setup or whatever the hell. But if we wanted to access more specific deformations, like if I wanted a control that could select this area right here and just grab it around and move it around, like if this was the cheek of the character. First of all, I'm just going to name this sphere base, and then I'm going to duplicate it once to call it sphere target, so that we can have this as our target shape for every blend shape. I'm just going to unlock these just in case I need it, and I'm going to move this off to the side just so we can keep everything organized. And then I'm going to duplicate this once and call this sphere. Let's just say cheek for now. And we'll go right here, and I'm going to go to the front menu. So essentially, a thing that we need to do when we are doing with a local rig, we're going to want to set a root joint first. So this will be, I'll just put this in the center and call this root. Roots local cheek. Just that'll be our suffix. And now that we got this established, this will carry all the weight that won't be usable in this rig, so we can kind of isolate it. It's kind of like we're creating. It's kind of like if we're creating a corrective blend shape that can be actively controlled. So after that, I'm just going to duplicate this joint and move it up right here, and I'll just orient it a bit for ease, I guess. And we'll call this chunk local cheek, parent it together. And if we skin these two to the cheek version of this geometry, and I grab this and move it around, well, now we can do that. So we've got that. We'll just call, that's basically what we have for this setup. I'm going to zero out these transforms really quick for the target. And we'll basically go to the target sphere, and I'm just going to pull up the shape editor. And we'll just create a blend shape. I'll call this sphere target BS, and then click on the cheek, click on the local rig skin geometry, and then click on the target. Make sure this is clicked on, and go to create, and then add selection as target. It's the third option in this box, and then turn it up to 1. So if we hide this, the local rig, and go to just our target, select this, and move it around, well, now it's deforming. Then what we need to do is click on our base and create a blend shape for that one, call it the sphere base BS, and then we'll click on the target, click on the base, go to create, add selection as target, set it to 1, and then we'll just hide all of these. And now if we move this around, now that's moving. So the problem then comes in with how are we going, is the problem that we then run into is that we, if we move this around, that joint is left behind, but we can still move it, and it works totally fine. So we're going to want to have an indicator or a controller to be able to move this. So I'm just going to create a circle. We'll call this chunk control, and I will parent it here to the cheek control, zero out everything, and scale it down, just kind of set it up like a controller. And we'll just group it to itself once for ease, and chunk control group, parent, unparent it, and then we will parent it to joint 2 for this case. And after we've done that, now that we have our control, we're going to need to connect it to this chunk control. So we're going to go back in here, go to the node editor. Really quick, where is it? Nope, almost had it. Okay, and we're going to pull the control and the joint in really quick, and grab the control, bring it over to where the cheek joint is, and show everything we can. We'll just directly connect our translate. Nope, that wasn't good. Oh, right, because its transforms are zeroed out. Okay, so in that case, we will, so yeah, in that case, we'll just duplicate this, call it chunk control. Well, actually, no, we don't even need to do that. We can just create a, we can just group it in on itself. If we group it in on itself, call this chunk local cheek group. If we just move if we move this around, it just works totally fine. We will center it. Actually, that's not a good idea. We're just going to create an empty group, parent it to this, set everything here to 0 so it can maintain its orientations properly. We'll call this chunk local cheek group. Then we will group it to itself, buffer, and then parent this to the local cheek, parent the cheek joint to the cheek group, and then we will actually not do that because I forgot about the the joints not always having zeroed out values, and then we can just connect these values right here to each other, and everything works totally fine. Then we just need to move this around, and now we have a control that can manipulate these aspects of the rig. So if we go back in here and move this around, we have a rig that would scale if I just made I could just group it to itself. We'll group it to itself, and now we have a rig that can essentially scale, be moved around, can deform properly, and if you notice, if I pull these up, this control is only moving around as like almost an inactive blend shape in a way, but these we can tell that because these spheres aren't deforming. However, when I start moving it around, then they start to all deform in a way. So that's kind of like a really rough example of like how you can use this in a way. So we have these. We have this bird rig. I'm gonna hide the lattices really quick. So going to just move this thing over, and I'm going to pull up Gertrude's blend shape stuff. Oh, that was the wrong one. Use default material. Okay. So we have these duplicated blend shape geometry. I'm going to hide the body. Well, actually, no, the body actually does have blend shapes on it. So if I move these controls, they're all ribbon setups. All the stuff that I'm about to go through is a ribbon setup. So if I click on these little lip controls, you can see that they kind of deform both the geometry. And if I select the geometry right here, you can see that it has a blend shape right here that'll connect it to this geometry right here, which has a skin cluster on it and is skinned to, you can't see this. I think I can dock it right here. Nope, come on. Which is skinned to all of our ribbon joints in this way. So that is kind of like the, I can pull up the shape editor really quick to show this a bit easier. So in this case, we have like our lower beak, the upper beak, all of the eyelids, the legs, and the body. They all have blend shapes to certain geometry, to this geometry right here. For the purposes of, I'm gonna hide the blend shapes really quick, but for the purpose of being able to use bendy controls, or bendy limbs right here. And they basically all can just do that through being connected to various local setups or local rigs that are, for example, for the body, it is basically a ribbon setup where the body is everything is skinned to this body, and all of my excess joints, all of my excess skin weights are going into this root bendy, which is basically just a dead joint that doesn't receive any weighting. That receives all of the excess weighting that we don't want to be affected. And because there is, if I go to my, really quick to my bendy, this bendy joint right here just doesn't have any weight, and it basically just would move everything around. Yeah, basically this one joint has no influence on anything, so it's basically just a dead joint receiving all of our skin weighting that we don't want to worry about. Then when we grab the bendy limbs, for example, we can just move it around and see that they all kind of deform in that way.